Hi guys. So before we start creating our PowerPoint presentations, I just wanted to go over what makes a good presentation. Yeah, just to make sure that you're going to do a sort of a strong PPT. I'm sure that you've done this in computing as well, but we're just going to reiterate some of the main points. So develop your easy to follow structure. For instance, you need to have a compelling introduction. So you want to grab the audience immediately. You want to then offer a body of evidence. So your evidence will be research-based. And fortunately, because you're doing this on your essay topic, you've already got all of that information. Sum up with key takeaways. So key things that you want your audience to think about or consider in the future. For instance, if you're talking about hypoxia, what could we do? What could the audience do to prevent or stop it from continuing? Part-time, maybe you want them to think about whether the education system needs to change in America or change in China. And have a well-prepared discussion. So don't just expect everybody to ask you questions off the top of their heads. You need to be prepared for that discussion piece. Remember, that wants to go for 3 to 5 minutes. So a couple of hints about the discussion part. Previously, I have had very sneaky, clever students who have actually written questions for the audience to ask the speaker. So for instance, if Ryan is giving the talk, Ryan might give Clary and Choco and Cole a question each so that they're prepared, and then Ryan will actually know the answer to those questions. So that's one sneaky way you can do it. The other way you could do it is to develop a debate, to actually ask the audience, what do you think, or should we do this, or what are your ideas, okay? And that will develop a general discussion amongst the class. As you guys are quite a nice, close-knit class, I do hope that you will support your classmate in actually participating fully in the discussion. So formatting and design, make it pop. Okay, so you want to make it look interesting but relevant. So if you're talking about something sad, you probably don't want to have pink rainbows and unicorns all over your PowerPoint. So make sure that your design relates back to your topic. So as I said, choose a design that's aligned with your topic. It's important to keep the font and the design consistent. Okay, so usually using the same font throughout your PowerPoint and making sure that the design throughout your PowerPoint is consistent as well. You want bite-sized information. Remember that your PowerPoint is not for you to read off. It is not for the audience to read off. It actually is to complement what you're saying. And we've actually looked at that in making a great presentation. So you've seen on TED Talks that they really just use images or a few key words or designs to complement what it is they're discussing. So identify the main idea and the point of a slide. So a slide is similar to a paragraph in that it's looking at one main point. As I said, the slides need to complement your speech. Using a diversity of resources is going to help as well. So you can see in the planner, I've written a resources column, which is for you to think about what you could include on that slide or during that part of your speech to complement what you're saying. You might like to use some images. You could start with some music. You might want to look at graphs or use a short video. Now, if you're going to use a video, you don't want it to be any longer than 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes maximum. You might want to use some statistics, diagrams, and even quotes are really good. So practice makes perfect. So you're not finished until you've finished it 3 times. It's the same as the essay. You need to edit, and get someone else to review and provide feedback. We're actually going to do that as part of this process. So before you give your presentation, I'm going to put you into small groups where you're going to be completing peer assessments for one another. That means that your classmate can give you some constructive criticism, so ideas about how you could improve your presentation. In terms of the presentation skills, you need to look at being different. So you can use anecdotes, body language, or even coming from a different perspective. Using rhetorical questions is a great way to get your audience's interest. And be aware of your audience. Consider who they are. So remember, you're not just talking to your teacher, you're actually talking to your classmates. So when you're using your language, you need to think about that. So again, if we're going to do hypoxia, you don't want to use a high-level scientific vocabulary because it's going to be confusing and probably a little bit boring for your audience. So make sure you simplify and use vocabulary that is appropriate to the audience. Use humor or shock. So if you use something that's quite funny or you shock your audience, it will gain their attention and keep them interested in what you're talking about. So using humor or shock actually also helps with your nerves. So if you know that your audience is interested in what you're saying, it's actually going to make you less nervous. If you notice that everybody's looking down or looking out the window or twiddling with their pens, it's going to make you more nervous because you're going to feel like you're not being of interest, okay? So it actually will definitely help you if you can use humor or shock or great resources. Being open and vulnerable. It's about showing that you actually care about what you're talking about. So being open and vulnerable. So if you're talking about hypoxia, you might want to give examples of animals that are of interest to your classmates. So I don't know, maybe the dolphins are dying because of hypoxia or something, and that connects it to the audience so that they can really relate to and care about it. Or if you're doing part-time, for instance, you might want to look at the fact that many university or people that are leaving university in China are finding it really, really difficult to get jobs. And that's something that, again, is related to the audience because you guys in the next few years are going to be going out in the job market as well. So it means that part-time work and being competitive in the job market is important. Make sure that you practice in front of a mirror. I'd like you to consider your body language and expression. I know it can be a little bit embarrassing doing that, but I highly, highly recommend it. And I promise you, all the people that have done TED Talks, anyone that you've seen do a good presentation, even presidents and government officials, they do it in front of a mirror, okay? So make sure that you practice and look at your body language, look at your expression. Can you understand what you're saying? Ensure the technology will work. This is a really important tip. So before you put your presentation on, make sure all the videos are working, the music's working, that it runs smoothly, that when you click the screen, it'll actually flow appropriately. The worst thing is jumping up to do a presentation and having a video or something there, and then the video doesn't work. It will increase your nerves, cause more stress, and will have a negative impact on your overall presentation. Using palm cards or dot points only, we're actually going to talk about how you're going to put your plan into your speech, whether you're actually going to use your plan as your speech or you're going to write out a full speech. At the end of the day, you need to make sure you're not actually reading off anything, all right? And finally, you need to make sure that you time your presentation. Marks will be deducted if you go 2 minutes under or 2 minutes over, all right? So make sure that you time your presentation. All right, so I'm going to have a look at some examples, some great PowerPoints. Here we go. So this is just to give you a bit of an idea about what you guys could do. And these are some really good examples. I'll also send you the link. I'll send you this PPT in a PDF format to the WeChat group so you can have a look. But this is this whole website that I will give to you has some really, really good examples on how to make a really interesting and effective PowerPoint presentation. So this one is really crisp and clean. It seems quite dramatic because I've used the black. You can see down the bottom that they've got the name by Colin Ramsey. Thank you, Colin. We live in a VUCA world and how leaders can navigate it. Okay, so we don't know what VUCA is, but we know it's about VUCA. So immediately, what is this about? So make sure that you're going to have an introductory page, so the first page on your PPT that's going to either ask a question or have a picture up of what you're going to be discussing. And again, to immediately engage your audience. So this person is probably going to go into great detail about these areas, but this is basically a contents page without them saying it is a contents page. So they've highlighted volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, okay, the new normal. And again, it's crisp and clean. There's not a lot of words. It's really about the speech. This grabs the audience's attention and directs them on where we're going to go in our presentation. Again, using a logical order, the same as your essay. So this person has decided to go straight into the history, so where VUCA came from. And again, you can see that we've got quite a dramatic picture. So it's talking about the Third Army War, Colleague Leadership, Premier Third Edition. Okay, so the idea of VUCA came from here. I'm not getting a very good feeling about this. The picture is quite dramatic, quite stern, maybe even a little bit scary. So immediately this presentation has affected the emotions of the audience. Again, to deal with a changing battlescape. So it seems very aggressive, and he's highlighted one particular area to make it even more dramatic. Again, we've got a scary looking bloke over here with a gun, looks like terrorists maybe dealing with. And this is maybe the concept of the boss versus the employees. Again, there's not a lot of information on the presentation because he's going to talk through this. So again, highlighted the main word, use dynamic, and use some different pictures. So business leaders face a similar changing landscape. Again, it looks very intimidating. This guy looks really, really stressed. So he's using simple language, color, and pictures as his resources. This is great as well because we can see that we've got a graph. So if you're talking about the increase of something, the decrease of something, using graphs and diagrams are really great ways to do it. And just having the graph up without a lot of words because you're going to talk through it. So again, he's just using really, really simple imagery, and you can see his focus up here is all on volatile. So volatile being aggressive. So volatile, volatile, and he's using a different picture and image behind it as he goes through the different elements of that. Then he's moved on to uncertain, and again, using imagery, which is quite impactful. Complex, this looks very, very confusing. So again, it's just complementing what he's saying, and ambiguous. So now we swapped it over to VUCA, vision, understanding, and clarity. And here's a really simple symbol that he's used. Previously he used VUCA in red, and we know that we've got negative connotation to that, and he's changed that to green, so we're looking at positivity. So I'm not going to go any further into this. I just wanted you to have a look at such a very simple, a straightforward, but very, very effective way to put your presentation together. I don't want to see full sentences. I definitely don't want to see copy and pasted paragraphs with too much word and not enough actual information that would be relevant. The other one I wanted to show you was technology, if I can find it. Yep. Sorry, just bear with me a moment. All right, well, maybe I'll have a look at this one. Okay, so you know this is going to be talking about technology. Even if the words up there weren't there, you can see that they've used a relevant design, okay? So the future's so bright, or is it? Very, very dramatic, a great engaging colour, and again, it's got a really relevant background, so the design's appropriate. So it's wearable technology, part of your daily life. So using a rhetorical question because pretty much most people have it, okay? So again, using images and percentages, so statistics, but it's also really fun and vibrant, but they're still maintaining the same sort of process, the same font. So we've got that going through the entire presentation. Again, this is really great with statistics, but using them in different ways. So you don't want to have a graph and a graph and a graph and a graph, using different methods to actually give the information that you need to. So this is high percentage based, but in order to keep the audiences interested, they're using different ways to provide that information, okay? Okay, and I will find not study effectively. Okay, we'll use maybe this one. This is a little bit more fun. So this presentation is about 10 ways that your boss causes problems for an employee, and probably maybe 10 ways that a teacher doesn't effectively engage their audience. And they've used a very common sort of animation, which makes it just fun and interesting, and it's a different way of looking at it. So coming at it from a different angle. They're using animation, bright, happy, interesting colors, but kept the same font and consistency. So again, it's to complement what they're saying rather than giving all of the information on the PowerPoint. Okay, so those are some details for you to think about when you're making your PowerPoint presentation. I'm looking forward to seeing some really great PPTs, but we're not going to start on those just yet. I will be having another presentation, another video where we're going to talk about turning your plan into your PPT, and then you're going to have some time to work on your PPT in association with your overall speech. So that's it from me for today. I will see you in the next class.